Keenan Willard is in Dorchester on Town Hall Road to explain what you're seeing right there now. Keenan.
Jeff, it looks like something really directly ripped from a disaster movie. I need to bear with me here so I can get behind the camera and show you just what I can see in about a 360-degree turn around me. The number of homes that have been torn apart by the force of these winds and the damage from falling trees. You can see one house right there that appears to have had half of its roof ripped out. Its neighbors there. You can see the path of debris stretching along over there, sort of in their backyard area. You can see people, a firefighter, walking away from what is a home that you can almost not even see because of how much debris was ripped down through it. This thing tore down almost an entire forest worth of trees, snapping them in half. You can see their neighbor right there suffering severe damage. That's their living room. You can see a couch, furniture, insulation pouring out into their yard. You can see someone pouring over the debris there, and the walls, the roof missing from this home as a result of this confirmed tornado. That is a destroyed home right there. You can see the power lines in front of it torn down as well. And when you zoom out and get a wider picture, it shows you what it did to these trees out there in front. The sheer force shearing and tearing at those trees, bringing them down across the roadway here. This is Town Hall Drive in Dorchester, and you can see we just passed by several homes there. Those are the trees that were ripped down, blocking the street right there. You can see it goes on much farther behind there, tearing down power lines, creating a mess in the road behind there, and even pulling things down, hanging from the trees here in the Dorchester area. Now, if you pull a little bit off to the right as well, you can see a building right there that doesn't appear to have been damaged, but the one right across the street from it, probably going to be another total loss. The roof totally collapsed in about 70%, it looks like, of that building. You can see windows punched out. That wall that's closest to us has just been punched in, falling and actually exposing one of the rooms there, what appears to be another living room situation. That looks like another home that is going to be a total loss because of A, the winds, and B, what was brought down on top of it there. This is I just spoke with a homeowner who was walking across the street, shaking her head, telling me she was really lost for words right now. We also just saw a few state responders. I'm going to move right in front again here, try and give you all an understanding of the steps we're trying to take here to communicate with people and talk about the loss they just suffered in an instant here. This was a tornado warning that came very fast, dealt severe damage to, at least where I'm standing right now, in a very small radius, 1, 2, 3, 4 homes that I can see right now, and obviously the trees that have fallen and blocked the street here. We're trying to speak with people who are trying to pick up the pieces in, again, just an instant. This happened out of nowhere. Severe thunderstorms were expected, but obviously it escalated to a point that many people in this community had probably never seen before. So we're going to spend the next few hours combing through some of this wreckage and trying to talk to people about how they're going to move on after this instantaneous, severe blow to their livelihoods here.
Keenan, we certainly see behind you there those trees blocking the road, so you came from the opposite direction to get to that point. Tell me, you cover these eastern community counties all the time. What was it like getting to that point? What did you see along the way when the storm was happening?
Well, the impact isn't just being felt for people who have actually had a tree crash down on their home here in this community. I actually had to wait at an intersection that's one of the major parkway intersections here by 43 and the Bats Parkway north of Rocky Mount. That's a huge thoroughfare. Thousands and thousands of cars come through probably on an hourly basis. It just has one police officer trying to direct traffic there. I was parked there for about 20 minutes trying to get through that intersection. I actually had to detour and take back roads around the major thoroughfare there because, as you said, it's blocked off. And now it definitely is going to add, in some cases, 25, 30 minutes to your commute time or anywhere that you need to go today, because there are situations like this, obviously, the trees blocking the road. There are some major intersections that are shut off, basically, or relegated to a police officer directing traffic because they've been knocked out. But even in the city limits in Rocky Mount, getting to these points, I also saw intersections out, no one there from a law enforcement or first responder perspective, people really just trying to communicate with each other, guess when they were allowed to cross the intersection, and creating sort of this tumble down effect of more dangerous situations, the impacts that you don't feel immediately after a disaster like this, while we still try to get things like infrastructure and electricity back on. So that's really what people are feeling right now, beyond just those who just had a tree crash down on their home or even the roof ripped off, Jeff.
Let's go back out to WRAL's Keenan Willard, who is talking with the folks there where their homes are destroyed. Keenan.
Renee, I'm here with Brian Varnell. His family's property is just off to the side of the road here and caught up in all of this damage. Brian, were you actually here on site when this all broke out, and what did you experience?
No, I was not, but many of my family members were at home at the time. Fortunately, they're all okay. This is all just property damage. It can be replaced. Don't know how that goes for the rest of the county or the rest of the area that's been impacted, but fortunately here, everyone is fine.
I don't know if you've been following our coverage. Our meteorologist in the studio talking about, based on the damage that we've seen here, this could be as much as an EF2 tornado. What was that experience like for them inside the house?
Well, they're shook up. They've never been through anything of this nature before, as most people in this area have it. We're used to more hurricanes of steady winds or small tornadoes during those time frames, but nothing of this scale.
As you look forward here, obviously, I mean, you know this neighborhood well, your family living here. Taking a look at it now, what goes through your mind? How do you describe this scene?
Well, it's one step at a time. I mean, just rebuild. Like I said, this is all property damage. This is just money. This can be replaced. Family and loved ones can't. So this is the main thing.
Where you go from here, obviously. When you look at the home, how much damage did you all actually suffer compared to some of the other houses?
Well, that's my sister's home behind you. That's totally destroyed. My aunt's home right here, that's pretty much gone as well. My dad's residence took a pretty good hit, but we're just right now securing belongings, getting everything squared away for nightfall.
So you actually had not 1, 2, 3 homes that were caught up and damaged in this?
That's correct, and our business is also back here. Our landscape business is also
And try and take a push here to show some of the land here. You can see, Brian, you can walk over here with me. Right there, whose house is that actually behind us?
That is my aunt's home.
Okay, and looking at it now, I mean, you can see the attic exposed in that house. What goes through your mind looking at this home right now?
Thank God nobody's hurt.
I know it's early, obviously, this happening today. Have you had a chance to think about or start making preparations for how you all recover from this? And is there, I mean, looking at all 3 homes and a business, is there like a dollar sign that you all think you're going to have to be able to use to recover from this?
Man, that's just money and insurance. That's what you pay it for.
Look, I'm glad that none of you all were hurt. 3 properties that badly damaged. One of them, you can't even see that house because of how severe the damage was. So,
yes, and normally there's 3 kids there all day long, but fortunately they were down at another home when this happened. So we do have other residents down here that are family that can start taking folks in.
So you guys were that close to having 3 children in a house you can't even really see anymore.
Well, God looks after you. So this is all material, man. It's all it is, material.
Brian, thank you so much for your time, and I hope you all can recover soon.
Yes, sir.
Guys, we are obviously just starting the process of understanding the damage out here, but you can see the impact. I mean, beyond just one home there to be severely damaged. That house behind us, the roof ripped out, the attic exposed. Some of these you can't, again, even see because of the debris that has come crashing down on top of it. Almost an entire swath of forest that has buried that house back there. We're looking at least 2 probably severe losses, and then another home where you can see, or previously the gutter had been ripped off. So just so much devastation here happening so quickly, and people just trying to pick up the pieces at this point.
You're with the mayor at this point. What can he tell us, Keenan?
Really, Mr. Mayor, you stand here and obviously look in your community and see the devastation around you. What goes through your mind when you see homes leveled, the roads crossed with trees?
Well, it's devastation, but the main thing, as far as we've heard so far, nobody's not been in a loss of life, some bumps and scrapes and that type thing, but no loss of life. So the rest of it we can deal with. So.
You told me, I mean, obviously a close-knit community here. You know the people. Look at this home behind us here. Just, I mean, in a complete room exposed, the roof gone. Yeah. What can you tell me about those people?
They work, the gentlemen here, 3 Hispanic gentlemen, they work over here at for the cemetery group. They were in the house when it happened. I know one of them had a bump on the head, and they called EMS for him. The other 2, I think, were fine. Just everybody's emotions is the main thing. Right across the street, the house there, I think there were 2 or 3 small children in there. They came through it fine. I think one of them stepped on a nail when they came out. But like I say, nobody that I know of has been seriously injured, and the property damage and stuff. We'll deal with it as we have to deal with it.
And there is going to be a lot. I mean, we're standing in one place here, and I can look around and see 5 homes that in some cases have been probably total losses.
Total loss.
You look at the next steps now as the leader of this community. What are the things you all have to do here?
Well, we'll be working with the county, the state, whoever we need to. I've been mayor here for 3 years. This is the first time anything like this has happened, so it's going to be a learning curve for all of us. But we'll get in touch with the county and state and just go from there and reach out to everybody and do what we can for people in this community.
We are tracking, the situation at the hospital. We've heard of arrivals and people coming in with injuries sustained here. As you said, we have not heard of any fatalities, thankfully, at this point. But as you come away from this situation as the leader of this community, what's going to be your lasting impression of this day and as you look ahead?
Well, the lasting impression of this day is I don't ever want to see another one like it again, because it went from sunshine to pitch black. And I guess this storm here lasted probably less than a minute, and you see what it's done. We just thank the good Lord that nobody lost their life.
Mr. Mayor, thank you so much. I appreciate your time, and I'm sure that you all will bounce back very quickly.
We will.
Thank you, sir.
Right, thank you.
As we said here, we are on the ground in Dorchester trying to keep track of what sort of damage has taken place, how people are going to be picking up and moving forward, and the real people, obviously, who have seen impacts like this one in just the last few hours and are trying to pick up the pieces of their lives now and get their families back on track. We're going to have more voices and more real people impacted in the next few hours here from Nash County. Back to you.
Keenan, thank you so much.
Deborah, full cleanup mode here on Town Hall Drive, and you talked about being able to see from Sky 5 sort of the path that the storm took, as well as where the epicenter was, where a lot of it focused here in Dorchester in this area. I'm going to step behind the camera here and be able to show you exactly the trail as we can see it and what steps are being taken at this moment. Take a look here. I am on Town Hall Drive. We are right near the epicenter in this Dorchester community where work is taking place. Look at the barren trees totally stripped of their leaves and branches on either side of this road, and the mess that it has left. Hanging power lines, trash, debris, tree branches, massive trunks of trees coming down across this road in the cleanup effort to try and get this area clear again. And you can see exactly how the winds got to that point. They started from this area, a little bit north of this road, sort of in a field area where there's some mobile homes right back behind that tree line there. This is where the winds originated, and you can see the damage they did, snapping trunks in half, moving their way across the street this way, littering the road, tearing down power lines, tearing down, in one case, as you can see there, a house. That home, the walls ripped down, the roof collapsing there, and you can see what's left of it. I actually spoke with a man who says he is the owner of that property. A family with young children lived there and was there at the time of this incident, and you can see no injuries reported in there, but the fact that there was a family inside of that home while the tornado touched down, I mean, look at that. The town of Dorchester sign right there and the devastation surrounding it. And that's the reason, because this is the town hall area. That's Dorchester Town Hall right off the side of the road next to us, surrounded again by downed trees, and again exemplifying the path that these powerful winds took. You can see sort of in the background behind the town hall building where this tornado went as it left this area and the snapped off trunks that it left behind. Look at the raw power of the wind there and what it did to these trees on close up, just middle of the trunk, just snapped in half, sort of like a toothpick there, and what it did to them, tearing off their branches, tearing down trunks, and sending them, in some cases, toppling down on top of homes with families inside of them. We were standing in this area and were able to turn around and see 5 homes, at least 3 of them, that would probably be considered total losses based on the sheer amount of damage they sustained, the walls coming down, the roof coming down, and it just extends sort of in a 360-degree circle with these trees being ripped down by the force of the wind, and you can really just watch this pattern of the storm damage and how it actually acted here. This very identifiable tornado debris trail and the path that it really waged here. It's just a community in Dorchester, very small. We talked about a little more than 1,000 people, but when we ask emergency response leaders, the mayor, how do you move on from this? The answer is honest. They're figuring it out. They don't know at this moment because it's not something they've ever experienced before. Even those who lived in this area for decades, potentially. We're talking to families who had 3 small children in the laundry room covering for shelter while this thing roared past them. Potentially, as Mike Mays said, an EF2 tornado based on the strength and the damage in these images, particularly trees just leveled, ripped off in their midpoints, and homes brought down to that level of severe wind speed, of trees brought down that heavily. It's going to be obviously a multi-day process, weeks, months ahead. I talked to the mayor about potentially requesting some sort of disaster declaration. Maybe that would access funds to help with emergency response here in this area. He said they're looking into everything. They're probably going to start with the county first to see what emergency funding they can unlock to try and get back on their feet, especially for these 5 families who, in some cases, lost everything in a matter of minutes.
I think, Keenan, you are at ground zero. Just as you said, if you turn 360 degrees, you're going to be able to see all of that damage. But what does it say about the Welcome to Dorchester sign? That it is still standing proud, because that is the people of those communities.
I'll be honest, when he was first showing that, he was showing the damage, and I saw that Welcome to Dorchester, and it kind of broke my heart.
I know, I took a breath.
But, you know, as he kept panning, you saw all the people who were there, and you heard the chainsaws revving up in the background. So that's Dorchester, too, the people rushing to the folks who need help, starting to cut up that debris and make sure that people have everything that they need. Right. But Keenan, what are you seeing? You know, you've not only been talking to people who experienced this, but the crews that are starting to show up. Are you getting any indication of how busy they are going to be? How many folks they anticipate to come help them out?
Well, at this point, they said emergency leaders here have said their first step is contacting the county, because that's going to be their #1 resource, their entry point, obviously the larger government body that's going to be able to divert their own resources here. Obviously, they run their own EMS services, their own fire divisions, and they are part of the teams that are helping to clear away some of this debris. Again, you can sort of see off to the side here just the effort to clear this road here. So you can see it starts with the county. That's the first thing we heard from the mayor. But depending on the severity, the length of time needed to, A, get your infrastructure back online, get your power back to people, get your roads clear, but also beyond that, the process of getting these people who lost everything, who had their homes shredded to pieces by these winds, how do you unlock funding to hopefully be able to help them get back on their feet, especially those with young children? That's maybe a process where they're going to have to elevate from maybe the county making a request to the state to help here, but in any respect, they're starting with the county. Those crews, the sheriff's office, EMS, really anyone who even lives in this area. That might be one of the most heartwarming things that we've seen in the few moments, well, hours since this has taken place. People walking around with water bottles saying, you know, do you need this? Is there anything my family can do? Even those who are right next to these homes that were torn to pieces and their home is still standing. They're coming out, talking to their neighbors, asking them what they can do for them in this time of trouble, because obviously a difference of 50 to 100 feet was life-changing for these families here in Dorchester. And so those who were not as heavily impacted are now in response mode. How do we stand up for our neighbor in this time? And so I heard earlier talking about the Rocky Mount area, saying, you know, this area has been built up so heavily, manufacturing becoming such a focus, and it's been so important for the state. Are they going to bounce back, especially after QVC? And now this, now hitting Pfizer? I actually asked a similar question to the mayor of Dorchester, and immediately his response was that they are resilient, and of course they are going to build back. It's just a process of how to do it.
Well, that's the generosity and the resiliency of people of North Carolina. Keenan, too, you know, we talk about how it's only been a couple of hours, and to see that kind of response already. And as we are looking on the right-hand side, we are watching some of the video from WRL Sky 5 of the Pfizer damage, too. Keenan, let's go back out to you, because it's just amazing to watch the people as they're cleaning up there. How hard is it to get around that part of Dorchester right now?
This is one intersection. It might be the epicenter, but it's one intersection. And I was asked earlier about the process of actually getting out to this point and how hard it was to even get out here to find where the damage was. And the answer was it was significant because not only is it a question of these trees being downed, we know about 95, obviously, because of that being such a huge artery, but those side roads, small 2-lane highways, have potentially their stoplights out and are relying on law enforcement officers to direct traffic, or in some cases, the light is just out. There's no one there to help direct traffic. People are trying to figure it out and signal to each other to safely proceed. And throwing into the mix all of this, the fact that this was not just, you know, the power going out, lines are down in some cases crossing these streets. We have seen some areas where just in an intersection in Rocky Mountain, the city limits, there were power lines down, leading people to have to try and work and avoid the intersection entirely because of that situation. So you're talking about a number of different hazards that make up the aftermath of a tornado and how a community responds. It is just this process for people who are trying to, in some cases, get home, because as we've heard earlier, this was in the middle of a workday, right? People were out, they were at work in the community, and in some cases have to get home, have to get to their children, have to do things to protect their families. But in some cases as well, the best thing you can do is to not get out and interact with these really zones that have been torn up, as you continue to see the cleanup effort there. People, emergency response leaders in this community just asking people, if at all possible, to please stay home and make sure that there is not a situation where you are impeding law enforcement trying to get to the scenes of these cleanup areas or these construction crews. Some of these DOT county workers, as you can see there, that is a piece of wall, aluminum siding, it looks like, that was hurled from one of these homes. At least it looks like about 20 feet in the air, caught up in between power lines. Stuff like this that leads to the power lines being drawn down, tangled up inside of those branches, and then strewn across the street. That, when we've talked to emergency responders in the past at even more minor scenes, just after maybe even a severe thunderstorm, that's the hardest part when you talk about getting your infrastructure back online after a situation like this, because you can't just go through with a shovel and clear the debris off the road. You have to make sure that you're doing everything possible to safely extricate everything from the wires first, because if you don't run a risk of your roads not being online anymore. It's an issue of, obviously, electric shock potentially, of getting caught up in another dangerous situation. And so we're hearing so many stories from people who were negatively impacted, right? From families in an instant who lost everything. But it's also been so gratifying, Deborah, as you said, to see people stepping up, not just because they have to, but also because, you know, they care, because they're volunteers, because they're neighbors, and because they live together. So it's just a lot here in Dorchester right now.
They work fast, though, don't they?
They do. And, you know, it's just the nature of the people who live in that area and all around our area. Keenan, great job. We will check back in with you in just a few minutes.
Sure. Keenan Willard, he's of course been on the ground in the Dorchester community minutes after the tornado touched down there.
Right, and we're waiting to hear what the National Weather Service has to say about the strength of this tornado, but I mean, the images, Keenan, you've been showing us paint a pretty clear picture. Anxious to hear what the gentleman standing with you has to say.
Dan, Lena, this is Brian Varnell. 3 of his family's homes here in the Dorchester area were impacted by this tornado, including the one you can see behind me, which is just decimated. The walls, roof ripped out. Brian, after all of this, how is your family feeling today?
Well, they're feeling blessed. I mean, no one was injured except some little minor injuries from scrapes, excuse me. But they're blessed. I mean, no one was injured. This is all material. It can be replaced. You know, I look behind me and it looks like a disaster area, which it is. But I see the blessings of people pulling together in a time of need and helping. Right behind you.
You told me about the experience of your family that was actually inside this home when the tornado happened. Who was in there and what did they go through?
I had some nieces and nephews. There was about 4 of them in there, and my sister as well. They loaded out inside the laundry room, which ironically, you know, we've always been taught that when, you know, bad storms come in, that's where we would get as kids growing up in this house. Fortunately, they got the alerts on their phones and heeded the warnings and hid.
Do you think that decision, looking at that, may have saved their life today?
Absolutely, that and the good Lord blessed them. So they got where they needed to be within the house, and it all worked out for the best.
You can see this home. There's another one that just had, I mean, the attic is exposed. There's a house behind that that is also just basically ripped to shreds. 3 properties for you all that you are going to have to basically build up again from the ground. I mean, what's the next step for you all?
Right now, it's just getting the furniture out of one, take it one step at a time. Try not to get too far ahead, but just working each day as they come.
And no one injured in this entire process?
Not here. Like I said, some minor, some boo-boos kind of stuff. Nothing major. So that's the blessing. All of this is material. It can be replaced.
That kind of mindset is exactly what we've been hearing from so many people here in this Dorchester community. Obviously so resilient, a small town, but as you said as well, to see neighbors coming out, those who like 100 feet away, their house was not touched, they're out there helping you all, holding water bottles and trying to do what they can. How does that make you feel?
Oh man, that's a blessing. I mean, that just makes you appreciative of the communities you come from. They're all across this state. I mean, this happens every day across here. They're all coming together, pulling together and helping each other. So that's what it's all about.
Brian, I'm glad that everybody got out safely, and I hope you all will rebuild quickly. Dan, Lena.
Keenan Willard in Nash County. Thanks, Keenan.
Keenan Willard, you have been here for hours now. You have been speaking with people who have been personally touched by this. So much devastation.
It's really difficult to look at these homes that you've been walking through here and see the representation of people with 3 small children who are inside that building. They're having to go through this in this moment, having to see everything that they've worked for, I mean, for years and years fall apart like that. And obviously a community at large that's going to have to bounce back from this. But the main message that I kept hearing from people out here was that we are resilient and we will bounce back. Entire homes reduced to a shell. Walls and roofs collapsed from the wind or brought down by falling trees. In a matter of minutes, this block of Town Hall Road in Dorchester was decimated by an EF2 tornado. 3 homes belonging to Brian Varnell's family were hit by the tornado. In this home, his sister and her children hid in the laundry room while the storm ripped the house apart around them. None of them were seriously hurt.
The good Lord blessed them. So they got where they needed to be within the house, and it all worked out for the best.
The damage was widespread. You can clearly see the path the storm cut through the community, snapping trees in half and shredding multiple houses. The town's mayor says it'll take time, but they will rebuild.
The lasting impression of this day is I don't ever want to see another one like it again, because it went from sunshine to pitch black.
And amid the cleanup, friends and neighbors turned out to support one another. What some say they'll remember most from this day.
That's the blessing. All of this is material. It can be replaced.
I think one of those images that's going to stick out the most, really, from being out here for hours, that just perspective of the Dorchester Town Hall sign surrounded by devastation. I mean, the road was blocked off by fallen trees, power lines, buildings, these people's homes, and yet that town hall sign was still standing tall. And people tell me that's kind of representative of the spirit that they have here and how they're going to attack the next few days. And the mayor did tell me that their next step, probably for trying to get a handle on emergency response, reaching out to the county, potentially then the state, to hopefully unlock some emergency funding.
Oh, it really is incredible. And just as you and I have been walking up and down the street, seeing some of the debris, children's toys, a person's check dated that they've obviously saved for years. I mean, these really are the stories of people's lives. Thank you, Keenan.